Hi viewers, welcome back to Sahara TV. Right now we're going to be discussing with Captain Cox. He's a retired airline pilot who flew a U.S. airline for 25 years and now is CEO of Safety Operating Systems based in the United States. Hello John, thank you for being on Sahara TV.
Hello David, it's nice to be here.
So last time we discussed the details of the Dana Air crash 992 back in June. And you were basically giving us the scenarios in which that crash took place and what may have happened with the airline. Now recently, as we have heard, they've reinstated the license of Dana Air, which many in Nigeria believe that it's too early and not enough has been done to ensure the safety of potential travelers. So based on what you've learned, both about this air crash 992 and what you know about the problematic history of Nigerian airways and airlines, do you think it's too early to reinstate their license? Is there a way to tell like how many safety checks and things should be done before reinstating a license like this?
Historically, an airline that has suffered a tragedy undergoes a very rigorous inspection by the regulatory agencies. And I believe the Nigerian government has said that those checks have been done. So this would not be an unusual circumstance to allow the airline to keep flying. If you look at some of the other recent tragedies, such as the Air France accident in Brazil, Air France continued to fly. If you looked at Colgan Air in the United States, Colgan Air continued to fly. So the idea that an airline has suffered a tragic accident but still keeps flying is one that has great precedent. But it is very important that the regulator make sure that the airline is in fact certain, and if the Nigerian Aviation Authority has concluded that they are, then it would be reasonable for them to reinstate the license.
Okay, and is there a general time frame that the safety checks and precautions are done? I mean, it's been, I guess, about 3 or 4 months now. Is that a normal time frame, or does it depend again on the regulators and the way that they do things?
It depends a bit on the regulators themselves. It oftentimes is even faster than the several months since the tragic 992 accident. So with understanding that there are some limitations in the resources available to the Nigerian Authority, this appears to be somewhat of a reasonable time frame.
Okay. Now, given, I don't know, I mean, it sounds like you're saying that every individual air crash, not necessarily taken completely as an individual happening, but then the fact that there has been a problematic history within Nigerian airlines themselves, and of course the government has come out and said that it is safe to fly again. So is it that, you know, the history does matter, but then each one is taken as individual, like maybe this particular crash doesn't necessarily relate to ones before it?
I think very much it has to be taken on an individual basis, and that you have to look at the circumstances, the resources, and the quality of the checks that the Aviation Authority actually performs. How comfortable are they? Now, Nigeria is very fortunate in that Dr. Harold Demirian, who is one of the leading safety people in the world, is the Director General of Civil Aviation in Nigeria. I am confident that he is involved in this process. I've known him a long time, and I have the utmost respect for him. So there are some challenges that Nigeria faces, but you've also got some very good assets too.
Okay. So just briefly to go back, I know last time we did talk to you about the Dana Air Crash 992, and at that time, a lot of details were still coming out. Was there anything between then and now that you've learned more specifically about that crash, any of the details behind it and things like that?
The issue of 2 engines failing continues to be reported. I don't believe that the investigative agency has issued an interim report yet. I'm looking forward to reading that when they do. But 2 engines failing on a modern jet is an extremely unusual circumstance. And to understand what happened there, I think will be the key. If in fact that's what turns out to be the case, I think understanding what would cause that second engine to fail will be the key to understanding the tragedy.
Okay. So you did actually mention the interim report, and a lot of people that we've talked to and viewers of the show have said that the fact that they reinstated the license really without releasing the report. So as you say, it's not very clear exactly the cause for the crash and the 2-engine failure. Is that usually done, or does it again defer to the regulators in the way that they do that? Because a lot of people were skeptical that the report hasn't come out, so they don't really know what's wrong with it, but that yet the government wants them to trust the fact that they should come back and fly Dana Air yet again?
Well, I think the important part to understand is that the two are independent. The assessment of the safety of the airline by the regulator is independent of the ongoing investigation of the 992 tragedy.
Okay.
So there is linkage only through the fact that both involve Dana Air. Otherwise, they're two independent assessments, one in an investigative way to understand what happened to the MD-80, and then the other one is to assess the safety and the ongoing capability of Dana Air by the regulator.
Okay. So I guess from a quick PR perspective, how do you, after this, sell this like back to the people? A lot of people are skeptical. I know you mentioned, you know, like Air France and other major airlines that do fly. They unfortunately have these extremely rare crashes, and then they continue to fly. There's not really a break, as you know, a license or anything like that, and so people do continue to trust these airlines. What is it? Just the history of the airline that the people trust, and is Dana Air there yet, or does the Nigerian government have to do something a bit more?
The marketing side of things is really not my area of expertise. I'm an air safety investigator. So how, if I were to try to market Dana Air, I really don't have a good answer for you there. So I think that it's incumbent on the government to be as transparent as they can on what safety checks they have done to ensure the safety of Dana Air. I think that the citizens of Nigeria are certainly owed that answer.
Okay. And I think just one final thing being that based on going forward and given the problematic history, how really does, like, I guess, could you lay out some of the aspects that are taken when looking toward, you know, a lot of people have questioned the training perhaps of some of the individuals, like not necessarily just the pilots, but the technicians. And I mean, how long would that take, like that kind of overhaul, to look at an entire program to see, you know, was it something wrong with the technicians or maybe some of the crew, ground crew? Like, how do you pinpoint that?
There are a number of standards that airlines that operate with industry best practice utilize, and those of us that do audits can assess actually quite quickly whether an airline has the processes in place, the procedures in place, the assets available, and how they utilize that in comparison to industry best practice. So that it would be for the regulator to go in and address and evaluate the capability of Dana Air, that could be done pretty quickly, and then to return back to their offices to meet and conclude definitively whether it was a good idea to allow them to continue to fly, or if they needed to make improvements. And what occurred with Dana Air at this point, I don't know. I haven't seen that reported.
Okay. I'm going to see now if we have any callers that have any questions for us. Nick, do we have any callers that have any questions for our view? Okay. Then I think that wraps about the interview. Again, thank you, Captain Cox, for coming on, and it's been a big pleasure speaking with you and learning about these different issues dealing with the Dana Air crash and the reinstatement of the license. Again, thank you so much, and again, thank you for before coming on back in June and July when the initial crash happened.
My pleasure, David. It's good to talk to you.
Thank you so much. And stay tuned, viewers. We're going to have an update with a pilot and crew related to the Air Nigeria protest. He's going to be discussing the protests going on Air Nigeria and what has been going on with the recent sacking of those workers by Air Nigeria CEO. Stay tuned.